Dobry den,
Renovation.
and welcome back to our little Bulgarian adventure.
Yes, we're having a very strange winter.
Yeah, it's been so warm the last couple of days. We've been sort of 18, 19 degrees.
I know over in the UK you're quite chilly at the moment. But,
yes, we spoke to Adam's mum last night and it's -4 over there yesterday.
That's what we're supposed to be having.
She's in the south of England, so it's quite weird.
Yes, I'm sure we'll get the cold weather eventually, but we're enjoying the warm while it's here.
We definitely are. It is due to drop now.
It is, yeah.
So after today, I think today's our last nice warm day. We get rain and
We get a lot of rain next week apparently.
colder.
So. Well, it is winter, so what do you expect?
So what have we been up to this week, Adam?
Well, we've started our big renovation project. I told you last week what our plans were going to be. Well, this is what we've done. Today I'm starting the steps coming down from the family room into what will be our kitchen. First thing to do is measure up, see exactly what I've got to remove stone wires from the wall to make the first 2 steps, which will be in the wall, or the top 2 steps. I have 40 centimetres from this piece of wood to the front of the wall. The height I'm working with from the floor up is just over 1 metre. So if I have 20 centimetre steps, that'll be 2 in the wall and 3 built up to the wall. So I've got a mark to see exactly how much stone I need to take out before I start removing stone. So that shows the area I've got to remove at the front. That'll go back 20 centimetres, and halfway up I'll have to remove the stone from the back half. That'll give me the first 2 steps. Now at the bottom there I'm halfway through a stone, so I'm going to have to remove some of that concrete to see exactly where the most logical place to take these stones away from is. I think my first step is to remove the easy stones to see where we stand. I've now removed quite a lot of stone, mud, little chips of filler which were in the way of where the stairs are going. That beam you can see right at the front there is built into the wall. I've removed some of the stone from underneath it because pieces of stone were far too long. My next job is just to trim a few bits of stone at the front here so that I've got room for the steps. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build back up again a solid level of sort of concrete or some sort of lime concrete step, so that I've got a solid base to build my 2 steps on. I think that's the way to go. The wall you can see at the back there is the back wall of the cellar. So we've now got a new entrance to the cellar. It won't stay there long, but it's there for the time being. My next job is to try and trim some of these stones at the edges to square up where the steps are going. Currently there are bits of stone in the way. I don't remove the whole stone, but I need to remove some of it. On this side I'm going to have to put something in. The wall comes down here, which leaves me quite a large area here which needs filling. I'm going to use one of the old bits of stone to put in there and cement into place or mortar into place, just to give me a squarish edge. I'm going to take a bit of this stone as part of my trimming, so we'll see that. I think the angle grinder with a stone cutting disc should be sufficient to take care of that. It would seem once again John is inspecting my work. He seems to like this entrance into the cellar. Certainly a vantage point he hasn't had before. No, he's had enough, off he goes. So that's now the grinding down the sides here done to level us off and bring us a nice square stairwell. My next job is to make this good to build the stairs on. Now the plan is to put a layer of concrete this height. So I'm going to put a board across the front, mix up the concrete, level it out, then allow that to set. That will then give me a solid platform to start building these stairs on. I've now finished making the base, which I'm going to build the steps upon for these two top steps. The next job is to fill the hole through to the cellar. I've got plenty of stone that we took out of the wall. Hopefully I'll be able to put proper stone back in to give myself a stone wall effect in the cellar and also have a sturdy base for the steps. These are the smaller stones that I took out from the area where the steps are going. So I should have enough stone there of the right sort of shape and size to rebuild that wall. I've now built up the back wall here with stone and cement. The next step will start along this line here, go up approximately 20 centimetres and then in. And then we'll have a final step up onto the floor of the back room. So the next stage for me to do now is make a former to go across the front here. What I'm also going to do is going to put some sides on each side so that I can also put some cement, any that comes through the side will fill up these gaps that's part of the tidying up process at the end. I'll make my second step. Once that's made and dry, all that leaves me to do is finish off the top. So there's 2 more stages to go. But my next stage is put the former in and then make the next step. So there's the former in place with the concrete poured behind it. I've used various bits of stone to help bulk out, so I didn't need quite so much concrete. My next job is remove the former and see how well it's gone. So that's the top 2 steps now made. The part where you can see the stone through the cement at the front there isn't a problem. We're going to be fronting and topping each step with tile. So there'll be tile adhesive going on and then the tile itself. So any gaps can be filled up, which will make it a little bit more solid. The last part to do on this step now is just fill along the front here. I need a front facing part that comes along this line here. That will then give us a step to a step and then work our way down. And of course we also have to build the steps leading up to those steps we just made. So those are my jobs today. Let's see how far we get. This is our pile of reclaimed and repurposed brick. We've stacked it ready for use. We finally come around to a job where we start using it. All we've got to do now is get it from here, which is just outside the big barn, up to the house. This is where, rather than me using my muscle power, I bring in Max. With a bit of playing with the bricks, this looks like it's going to be the design, or certainly the layout of the bricks. We'll have 2 rows of 2, a brick length each, so each step will be a brick length. Now it looks a bit lower than it needs to be, but there's no mortar yet underneath any of the bricks or between the bricks, which obviously will add height to the steps as we make them. Once we've finished wheelbarrowing up the bricks, I can mix up some mortar and start laying them. Something I haven't done before, but well, we'll just have to see how it goes. So here's our first platform and first step. It's all mortared together. It's fairly solid. We're ready now to do the second and the third step, but they'll have to wait for next week. I've run out of time. The untidy bits down the side, that's not a problem. We're going to be rendering over the top anyway. So we're just basically looking for a solid platform to work from. And this appears to be giving it to us. So by this time next week, we should have fully rendered working steps that we can use to come from this end of the house to the other.
We had lots of little visitors this week.
We have.
The first one you found in the sandbags.
Yes, as I moved my sandbags around, they were a little bit damp. I lifted one out of the way and we found a frog.
Quite a big frog.
Yes, I got Max to take him and escort him to the woodland, put him somewhere suitably damp, but to keep him away from the cats and the dogs, really.
Yeah, we didn't want him getting eaten.
No.
And then last night, there was a tremendous racket outside.
Yes, the dogs in the barn were going a bit strange, really, very noisy.
Yeah, barking very loudly, and then all of a sudden there was these other noises.
Yes, so we went to investigate. We had a pair of foxes across the road.
Yeah, and they were making such a noise. I've never heard anything quite like it.
So we went to check it out. The shepherd from up the hill, he came to check it out as well. But yes, they settled down after about half an hour. We heard nothing more, but
Had a major panic about our cats.
Yeah.
Running around the house seeing how many cats we got, just to make sure the foxes hadn't got out there.
they all are present and correct.
They are. So, yeah, and we've had the odd power cut because we have had a bit of wind.
Yeah, it has been windy, yes. But it's been a warm wind. It's
Yeah,
very,
it's from the south,
very strange.
So very warm wind.
Yeah. So one of the other jobs that we've been getting on with, or at least starting, is wood processing.
Yeah, we had the tail end of last year's. Not very much.
No. But I was having a problem holding the bits of wood individually so I could cut them with a chainsaw. So I've made this. As we're now getting to the stage where we have to do our wood processing again, I found I was missing something handy for holding short lengths of timber or individual pieces of timber for me to cut them without having to strap them down and clamp them in place. So I built this. It's basically a tool I can use for holding the wood in a solid position without clamping it, so I can cut it easily and remove it quickly. The basic principle is very simple. There's a couple of rows of screws which, with the pointy ends sticking into the wood, hold it in place. At the back it holds the top of the log, and at the front here it holds the bottom. The weight of the wood then produces enough leverage to stop the wood from moving when you're cutting it. I've also made it adjustable for thicker pieces of wood. This top row of screws in the wood removes when the clamps are taken off to reveal another row of screws lower down which will hold bigger pieces of wood. The box section is actually supported on a piece of 4x4 which is attached with a ratchet strap to one of the supports of the barn roof. At the top there's another ratchet strap to hold that in place, which holds it quite securely. This basically means I didn't have to build a base for it, which would have made it a little bit more complex, because I have these supports. But it's easy enough to make a base if you wanted to. It just takes a little bit more wood and a little bit more time. If you have a larger piece of wood that doesn't fit easily inside, it's very easy to adjust. Take off the two clamps and the front section, and now it's big enough to hold your piece of wood in place. So there it is, my new tool for cutting individual pieces of wood and short pieces of wood that are hard to hold. All I have to do now is finish my wood processing so that I'm all ready for next winter. So that should help speed up the process a little bit this year, but I think that's about all we've been up to this week.
Yeah, our wood stocks are actually lasting really well, aren't they? Because we haven't had the fire on at all.
Well, as it's been so warm, we haven't burnt so much wood. So hopefully I won't need to do quite so much wood processing.
No, you do have some trees to take down.
I do, yeah. We'll get to it.
We'll get to those, yeah. Probably not for a couple of weeks if the weather turns.
If the weather gets wet, there's no fun waddling about in the mud.
No, felling trees in wet and wind is not a good idea.
We like to have ideal conditions for when we do it.
It's not that good. But I think that's about it for us this week.
Yes, I think you're fully up to date with us now. So it just leaves us to say,
Doskoro.
Doskoro, stay safe.
Be well.
We'll see you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.